Second chances, second chances, reflecting on the things I've done. Second chances, second chances, knowing that the best is yet to come. Cast a stone out on the endless sea of possibilities. Watch the ripple flowing, trusting, never knowing where it leads. Second chances, second chances, there's something waiting round the bend. Second chances, second chances, ready now to take.
If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Good evening. This is Shirley T. Burke again. Welcome you to our show, Something Different, and we're very glad you're tuning in. I'm excited for the show tonight because really and truly, I have not heard very much of what other guest is going to say. In fact, I am just meeting one of the guests tonight. He was referred to me by a cohort, and I've been trying for a couple of years to get him. Not that he didn't respond, it's just that I didn't get through, didn't have the right address. So I am really excited to have our guest here tonight and glad you're tuning in. Just wanted to share a couple of things with you, asking you to check us out on Facebook because we have some announcements out there about programs going on, and it's at Shirley. If you put in Shirley T. Burke, you will get me, or if you put Shirley T. Keeping It Real, either one of those addresses you'll find me. But there's some information out there we want to share with you, some things coming up on May the 9th that if you might be interested in. If you aren't interested, maybe one of your friends or neighbors or kin people might be interested. But we would like for you to see that, and we would like for you to friend our page. Our business page is Shirley T. Keeping It Real. All right, so I'm going to let this young man introduce himself. I like for people to tell you who they are. You go to churches, you go different places, and people read a long dissertation. Maybe this person, you might have left something out there they wanted to say or something. So I'm going to let this young man introduce himself. I'm not even going to call his name, and you'll figure out why in a few minutes here, in a few seconds. So I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell him right now that I'm grateful that you showed up today, and thank you so much for coming.
My pleasure.
Okay. You want to tell the group, tell our audience who you are?
Good evening. I am Eli Burke. You'll see my name listed as Reverend Dr. J. Elisha Burke. Mm-hmm. I serve as the Director of Health Ministry for the Baptist General Convention of Virginia. And my role there, of course, the convention's been around since 1899.
You weren't here then, were you?
No, not quite, not quite. But our intent is to provide training in churches to make sure that church members throughout the Commonwealth have access to whatever training they need to run efficiently. So we do that. We break ourselves up into clergy, men, women, health, youth. So we provide training, seminars, workshops for all of those.
All right.
Now the health piece we've been in for over 30 years.
Yeah, because that's when I first heard about that part, that health part.
Because of the serious problems that African Americans have with controlling high blood pressure, diabetes, and other conditions, and because of the high death rate that we experience compared to other populations, we want to help people to have information about these conditions at places of worship, where they worship. And also we want somebody on site who keeps information before the congregation, helps them to keep themselves in check.
Right.
Because yes, we all have a ministry to do, but we do it through this physical body.
Yes.
So we have to be concerned with the spirit and the body. So, and as a part of that, we partner with various organizations. And so at various times, we have different types of things going on. And I think you heard about me through one of our initiatives that we were doing in partnership with the VCU Medical Center a few years ago.
Yes, Oral History Project. Okay, tell us, can you
tell
about
that? That came about, the Oral History Project, which we finished in 2011, started in 2010. It came about because one of the challenges that the medical community has in helping African Americans have better results from medications and from treatments is that very often when they are almost always when they are testing new drugs and new treatments and therapies, African Americans are not participating.
Okay.
So you would find that most major research universities around the country and in the world are trying to get more African Americans to enroll in clinical trials. You've probably heard the commercials on TV trying to get people to enroll in various clinical trials. And that's interesting because that sometimes is part of what scares people away.
Okay.
And sometimes the reputation of a particular institution causes fear in people in terms of receiving treatment. So I had been working with some people at VCU for a while and talking about what can we do to sort of get more people involved. And one thing I pointed out was that when I first came to the Richmond community in 1980, I was in a church in Jackson Ward, and one of the first things I heard was that you don't want to be caught out around MTV at night because they'll snatch people and use people for research. And so I didn't think much of it, but I would hear it over and over again. Then I said, okay, and this project allowed us to sort of get at the root of how much of that still exists and how it might be causing people not to want to receive treatment or to wait to the last minute to receive treatment.
Now, what age were these individuals that were repeating? Were they repeating it?
Right.
Were there people who had actually experienced it?
The challenge was that we're still hearing these same types of statements now.
Oh my, okay.
So we wanted to interview persons who themselves had been treated at
Of course.
the hospital, and also, those who had memories from what their elders at the time would say. So we were looking for persons 60 and above who had received treatment at the former MCV and wanted them to share their experiences. So we formulated a list of questions about how they were treated and all those things. We also wanted to know what they had heard.
Okay.
Because the reason that so many younger generation are afraid of medical treatment there and at other places is because they've heard these stories from people who did experience things when it was segregated and after. So, and it causes people to be afraid to go and receive treatment, especially preventive treatment. So people tend to go when they think they might die if they don't go.
That's okay. In emergencies. Now, how many people did you interview for that? Do you remember?
Oh, I interviewed 20, and they were as a representative sampling, and it was a very interesting process. They were very, once they became comfortable, they were very open about what they had experienced, and at the end of the day, many of them, will sort of, you could see people change. So nobody really asked a question before.
Yes.
In that way.
Yes.
And but the encouraging thing was that many of them, once they thought about it, could see, yes, things are drastically different. But
it was real.
And yet it was much of it had a basis in fact.
Okay,
yes.
that's what I think is important, because sometimes people think we're just saying things to be saying it.
No.
But we had a minister, he's now deceased, but he told us that through the pulpit. He married my husband, and he told it often about having to escape, and that's what he said, from MCV, because they were about to kill him, use him for some experiment or something.
Right, but the thing is, some people misunderstand what the intent is.
Yes.
And I think one of the challenges now, one of the reasons that we have some of the laws that we have now in terms of when people agree to be in research, it has been made very clear that they understand that this is research. They should be told up front exactly what to expect. But the challenge became that at the same time that these people that we were interviewing were going through, but they were going through and using the system, they had in their head things they had heard. About the syphilis study and some other things that were still out there, and that's still, and people still repeat those things.
I'm turning pages here, being disrespectful almost here, because I had my friend right there, Henrietta Lacks.
Henrietta Lacks, yes.
Talk about that. I know you're...
Well, native, right here in Virginia, And the crux of it, so the crux of that matter was that her cells were used without her permission. She was poor. She needed medical care, and they found out that her cells were very useful because they kept reproducing.
Yes.
Okay, so
And
that's why the book is called The Immortal Henrietta Lacks.
And I'm
because
sure a lot of
still,
people,
when they need to create cultures and grow new cultures to study for various diseases, they're still used.
today,
Yes, today.
still using today.
And in fact, of course, the issue is now that many of her grandchildren, like some of her children still living, they want to be compensated for her contribution to medical science.
Right.
And so I'm sure that is still being worked out. But again, even for those cases where it's recognized that people's remains were not treated properly,
Respectfully, yeah.
and they are now looking and saying, what can we do now to sort of acknowledge that happened? But the other side of that is, what can we do to make people know that now that we do things differently? Now there are laws in place, but we also understand that morally, ethically, that we need to handle these situations with care because there were human beings involved.
Yes. I just, when I heard about Ms. Lax, I'm sure there were people that were helped with her cells that would have rather died.
Had they known.
known.
Yes.
And it's still happening today. And that's what I think is important. It's critical that we know that this lady is still contributing.
Right. And on the other side of that, for those that had issues with rather along race or whatever it might have been, it also proves to you that we're essentially the same substance. Okay.
Of course.
And but I'm saying people would often function if it doesn't. But the main thing is these things have helped to cause people to not want to be a part of the creation of new medications and treatment therapies.
Okay.
Because there are some things that are sort of specific to you culturally based on the country of origin and all of that might cause you to react differently to certain medications.
Right.
And if we're not in the studies, when we're receiving those medications and those treatments, they're really based on somebody else's
DNA.
And, right. And so we want to be
how they respond, culture and all. Are those ads that we see on TV, are those the only resources that's available for us to know about?
No, actually,
research?
I really can't say much about those. Those are, not that they're not valid, those are private
Yes, okay. They're
entities
private, okay.
that do,
Research,
and not that the research is invalid, but I would say that most of the research, generally I'll talk from convention, if I work with somebody on a project to enroll people in research, it would be a university hospital.
Okay.
That has a long history usually.
Okay.
Or one of the major foundations. I know in the past Baptist General Convention had a partnership with Lilly Foundation.
Yes.
So it has to be somebody of a long-standing relationship, and we know what the practice would be.
Okay.
As it's being conducted.
Yes.
Because we do want people to be in these studies because we want to know why.
Yes.
Why is it so hard to control our blood pressure?
Yes.
And other things.
Yes.
And why do we have such a high rate of certain diseases as
Right.
compared to other populations? So we need to be in the studies.
And how come that latest DNA that help people? How come hers keep reproducing and you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that would be real important to know why is it, because I understand that someone told me that even just being in the lab, if it came out, it made other things reproduce. It's just getting in the air in the lab. That's what I understand.
And that's why still they will keep that alive because that is so.
It's a unique situation.
Extremely.
Extremely. And it would be. I'm thinking that somebody, that is something that would be of interest to somebody.
Right. No, and of course, if
they haven't found it already, what I'm saying?
It won't go away because reality is it's helping many, many people. Yes. And there are some people who have made huge amounts of money off it.
Of course.
And the family is left out of the equation.
Yes. So. That's not unheard of.
It does happen.
It's not unheard of.
It does happen.
But I think it's important.
But at the end of the day, even though it's not as we would like it to be, for medical science, it's been a wonderful thing.
Oh,
It's
yes.
helped them
Millions
get
of
to the
people, I would
genesis
think.
of so many other
Yes.
conditions, and so it's been a good thing in the end.
Yes.
Even though the way it was handled was not ideal.
Yes.
Which is much of life.
Much of life. That is the truth, Dr. Burke. That is so the truth. That is so the truth. And a lot of things come through stress and trials.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yes, they
the
do.
most important things, I think, happen through a lot of stress.
Right.
Like a diamond.
Right.
There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and you
A lot
go
of
from
pressure.
cold to diamond.
Yes.
But so that's part of our thrust. We looking at, and currently that project has ended, and they'll
Yes,
use
yes.
that and be considered as new people are trained. That that there are some things to look out for,
Okay.
and how you bring people in. But we now have a program called Balanced Living with Diabetes, because we have such high rates of diabetes, and many people don't do well with the treatment regimen. They don't do well with the eating. They don't do well
Because
with
it's
taking
something
the
that you don't see or feel as readily. That's what I think happens.
Well,
they
and there's some denial in there, because we're
yeah.
still saying things like got a little sugar. There's no such
The
thing.
thing is-
That's all over your body. And the biggest challenge is changing one's eating habits and lifestyle to keep it from developing full blown to the point that you're on insulin, or to manage it once you do have it. So that initiative is a project we're doing with the Virginia Tech, Virginia Extension Service, and Virginia State University as our partners.
Oh,
And what we do is we use our churches to provide classes. We do an assessment, see where they are, and then they go through a series of classes. The research part of it comes in. For the person in the class, it doesn't feel like a research project,
Yeah.
although we explain that to them.
Yes.
But what we're trying to do is we find out what works best
Yes.
in African Americans to control diabetes. So all of them will get to class. Some of the churches involved will get a support group that meets monthly. Some will get a support group that meets quarterly. Some will have to wait a year to get the support group, and we go back and test.
Yes.
How are you doing? How are you doing? Are you keeping your levels down? So what we want to find out, what works best. A big piece of this was that the classes for the diabetic and also for pre-diabetics. Most programs just have diabetic.
Right.
We also, the persons in this program can bring a family member. Because a lot of people have a trouble with diabetes because they're not the one that cooks.
That's the truth.
And they have to eat the way the person in the house cooks. So on this one, they can bring that person with them,
Yes.
so they can understand how to cook
That is
for a
great.
diabetic.
That's great.
Now, it gets even better. A lot of times when you found out you were a diabetic, you came home with what you could and could not do. You might have gone to a nutrition. They told you to eat these things and don't eat these things. But your challenge became, that didn't allow for the fact that we often season our foods differently. Most of the things on the traditional diabetes list were bland to us.
Yes.
That we were not going to eat. First, we were dealing with not sugar. We
Rather
didn't want
die.
insulin. We didn't want whatever. But what we did with this program, we took traditional African American recipes. We put together a committee. We all came up, we looked at all the cookbooks out there that had healthy recipes. We picked the ones that were very much a part of the African American tradition, like collards and other things, and macaroni and cheese. And we looked at healthier versions. And we taste tested them. We had one of our churches that brought in 80 people. We had all the foods prepared. And the ones that they said they could eat, as ongoing, were the ones we chose for the program.
That is
so they get the
really
instruction. They also learn how to cook healthier, and they get to sample the foods as they attend the classes.
That's awesome.
So we love this program.
That's reality. Yeah, this is reality.
Yes.
And dealing with reality, I always say, is the better thing, because you prone to keep going if you're satisfied with the food. Bland food is just nobody's gonna keep eating it.
And again, you can make it healthy in a healthier way and learn to enjoy the taste. It's gonna be different.
Yeah.
It will never have the high salt, but the taste and texture can be achieved in other ways. And we talk about that. And we encourage our churches to host the classes and then use what they learn.
Now, your churches, are they all over the state of Virginia?
We are all over the state of Virginia.
That's great.
And so there are over 900 active churches right now in the convention. Yes. Yes.
That's a lot of churches.
It is.
That's
It
a
is.
lot of
You know, of
churches.
all different sizes.
yes,
Most of them being rural.
Yeah.
And like I said, many of them are small. Most of them are smaller churches. They don't have full-time staff. So therefore, this is why we have our conferences regionally and statewide, so people can get training. So a person in a rural church can get training for their deacons and trustees and missionaries and whomever else.
Yes.
Sunday
yes.
school teachers and youth leaders. So we have a series of all the time we are producing training.
That is great.
In these various areas, and for
great.
clergy.
That is a program that you all should be proud of, because you're carrying it to the people, keeping it real, which is critical
much so.
for follow through. That follow through
Yes,
effort,
yes.
to follow through, it takes somebody has learned what it takes to get people to follow through, and you're doing it for their life.
Right.
However, it's hard for them to do it themselves, by themselves.
Yes,
You've
yes.
seen that. You have that
It's
evidence.
very difficult.
Yeah,
very
you have that
difficult.
evidence.
So we're concerned with the whole, the whole person.
Yes, yes.
Spiritually and physically. And our young people, our youth division ministry is very active. And we also, the convention really started. The main mission when it first started was support Virginia Union.
Oh, really? Mm.
And we still maintain that partnership. In fact, our building is on the campus of Virginia
okay.
Union. And we still partner and work with them. And of course, we push our children to go to that school
Of course,
if
it
possible.
makes sense to me.
And at times, and various times, there are scholarships for those that Baptist General Convention students going to Virginia Union. So that's a very active partnership.
Yes.
Other partnership is One Church, One Child, the foster care
Yes,
and adoption.
yes,
So that's
yes.
another partner, as is the Virginia Council of Churches and a number of other organizations, because we want people to experience the fullness of life. And to be able to flourish.
Yes, flourish.
So we see all of that as a part of our ministry. And of course, there are many other aspects of our health and wellness ministry, but I won't go into them unless you want to hear more detail.
What I would like for you to do is tell people how to get in contact with you if they have questions.
Okay. The Baptist General Convention, we're at 1214 West Graham Road on the campus of Virginia Union. Our main number is 228-2421. That's 804-228-2421. Our office hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And our website is bgcva.org. bgcva.org. We also can be found on Twitter and Facebook.
Ah, awesome.
And LinkedIn.
Oh, no.
So we are
covering all the medias.
Yes.
Go ahead, Doc.
Yes, we are connected.
Yes.
And we are planning now for our annual session, which will be held in Richmond this year.
Oh, that's different.
And where we bring in delegates from all of our churches, and we are expecting a good showing, and we have about 21 different classes people can take. Plus, a number of other events. I'll have a health service area. We'll have 25 health service providers on site.
That's awesome.
We will have health screenings.
So,
And
they
so
can go to your website and
They
find
can
out
get
the
all that
dates
on
and
the
stuff
website.
that
It's
they want-
June 29th
And
through
anybody can
July
come, right?
3rd. There's a registration fee if you're participating in classes.
Okay.
But the worship services are public, and there's some forums with some political persons that are public.
Okay.
So there are some things that are public. In the health service provider area, that's always open.
Okay, all right. Give them that information again.
All right, that is our annual session of the Baptist General Convention. Will be held at the downtown Richmond Marriott, beginning with the worship service on June 29th. And commencing with classes and other sessions on July 1st, 2nd, and we close out on the 3rd. So it's July 29th through July 3rd.
Awesome.
Downtown Richmond Marriott.
All right, Doc, thank you so much for that information. We learned quite a bit, and it's good information knowing that there are organizations out here helping people.
Yes.
And I don't think we hear enough about that. And sometimes people who need it might not know it.
Right, that's true.
But I'm going to ask you to stay.
Okay.
Hang around. We're going to get ready to bring our next guest on.
Okay.
We really appreciate you coming
Sure.
and thank you
My
for your
pleasure.
information.
My pleasure.
It is, and please, we had the number. We'll show our number on the TV. And if you have questions for Dr. Burke, get them ready. And then we're going to get ready to bring our next guest on stage.
All right.
second chances, second chances, reflecting on the things I've done. Second chances, second chances, knowing that the best is yet to come. Cast a stone out on the endless sea of possibilities. Watch the ripple flowing, trusting, never knowing where it leads. Second chances, second chances, there's something waiting round the bend. Second chances, second chances, ready now to take the leap again. Cast a stone out on the endless sea of possibilities. Watch the ripple flowing, trusting, never knowing where it leads. All my tears, all my fears subside.
Welcome back. Shirley T. Burke again, and we have our next guest on. And I definitely going to let her introduce herself because I told her I don't want to slaughter her name. But she was just sharing with me how to pronounce it, but I'm grateful that you're here. And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Shirley.
And I think what you do is so important.
Well,
That's why you are here. So would you introduce yourself and tell
be
our
happy to
audience
do that.
what you do?
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Boitnott. I am a former teacher and teacher advocate and currently a coach for teachers. In general, I am trying to reach out to coach teacher leaders, teachers in distress, and teachers in transition.
Teacher leaders.
Teacher leaders.
Who are they?
Those are the folks who are not necessarily interested in going into administration,
Okay.
but want to lead from their heart and have a greater impact on their students in the classroom or in the school as a leader in the culture, or to be a greater helper and assistant to the principal in the general running of the school, as opposed to aspiring to be an administrator.
Okay. All right.
And so, for example, a teacher leader could be anybody who takes extra steps up, volunteers to do some extra things that nobody else is willing to step up.
And there's
to do.
always some of that in there at school.
Right. There are also
Yes.
folks who are national board certified
Ah.
who are looking to be tapped to offer their areas of expertise and
Okay,
to be
explain
used as
that a little bit
leaders.
more.
National board certification is a voluntary designation that goes to individuals who go through a process that's very similar to studying for a master's degree, only very often they do it as an independent study, so they're doing it as a solitary endeavor, and it takes somewhere between 200 and 400 hours to complete. It's a 1 to 3 year program, and there are certifications for every designation: counselors, librarians, generalists. The math teachers can get certified in math, social studies, English. There are probably over 30 different certifications available.
So people that do that definitely has an interest.
They
in what they're
definitely
doing.
have an interest in
What they
stepping
do.
up their own game. And
Yeah.
what's important about that particular certification is that it's not like just going for a master's program where you show up for class and you turn in your assignments and at the end you take an exam and you get a master's degree. That's important.
Yes.
But for a national board certification, you have to offer a portfolio of your work that includes work with the community as well as with students. You have to demonstrate how what you're doing has made a difference in the achievement of children. and you have to offer videos of yourself teaching in front of your class, and then there's an exam at the end. So it's a full-pronged program, and when the assessments are being done, you're assessed by people in your particular subject area. So it's your peers that are deciding whether or not you have demonstrated by offering clear, consistent, and evidence that you have met the goals that you say that you've met.
That videoing, now that is something.
There are two videos that are required.
Again, you know how I am about keeping it real.
Yes, ma'am.
Keeping
Yes,
it real.
ma'am.
That is keeping it real in
And
terms of
it's
observation.
a lot of work.
Yes,
but the people who go through it are truly dedicated
They have to be.
and want to prove their own field of expertise. They are also not necessarily interested in pursuing administration. In fact, many of them go the national board route rather than to go for an administrative endorsement because they want to stay in the classroom. There is a financial stipend that's available from the state and in some cases from a locality, depending on the locality, for those who achieve and go through that process.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I like the idea of what you had on your card about teachers in transition.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that.
Well, the teachers in transition are the ones who've already decided that they're either ready to retire at the end of a long career or they feel that they have hit some sort of wall and they are ready to explore other career options. So they've already made a decision that they're looking for some other career opportunity. For the ones who are ready to retire, many of them are still young enough that they have an opportunity for a whole new career. So I want to help them reinvent and retool themselves for,
So that's
for
what
a
you're
life
coaching. Yes.
after a lifetime of teaching.
Yes.
And then the teachers in distress are the ones who are on the horns of the dilemma. They love to teach, but they are not having any fun doing it anymore.
That's got to be.
Because of all of the testing, the overemphasis on testing that takes so much time and energy away from the teaching and learning that's really important, certainly more important than a score on a test that a child makes on any particular day. And what the teachers are often telling me, the ones who are fitting in that category, is that they're just not having any fun and they don't feel like they can do it for much longer. What I want to do is help them either come to terms with being satisfied to stay because that is where their heart is and that's what their passion is and that's where they can do the most good, and so to figure out how they can have a greater impact without feeling so lost. Or if they're really in the position of, I just can't do this anymore and life is too short, then I help them with the career coaching and counseling that I'm also offering the teachers in transition.
That is something. Tell me about some of the people, some of the experiences, if you can, that you've had, especially with those teachers in distress, because I still wonder why people go into the profession. Whenever I hear somebody say, I'm going to be a teacher, I'm grateful because it's just, I just can't imagine.
My experience is that the people who decide they want to be teachers truly feel called to it, very much like people who are called to to the health industry or to a ministry.
Right.
It is a calling. It's something they feel that they have in them that they can offer, and they've had probably more than likely they've had the experience of a teacher having a huge impact on them, making a difference in their lives at a critical juncture, whether it was 4th grade or 8th grade or 11th grade. And they want to be in the position to do for somebody else what that teacher did for them. And they really do come from a heart-centered place when they decide that they want to teach. The ones that I've worked with that fall into the distressed category are usually the ones who are between 8 and 10 years or 12 years. They've been doing it for that long enough that they've just begun to feel tired and worn out. One of the problems with teaching in today's classroom is that we're constantly shifting gears and changing the rules. So every year there's some new curriculum, some new emphasis on some new, the latest and greatest, whatever the latest silver bullet is supposed to be.
Added on top of something else.
Added. They never
take
take anything away.
That's the reason I wonder how people still
That's
think-
been one of the biggest complaints. The more and more is added to our plates, and nothing is ever taken away. And teachers are being held accountable more and more for things that really should be taught at home, should be part of the home environment. And every time there's a problem, unfortunately, in a situation where a general assemblyman, a delegate, or a senator thinks, oh, that's something the school should handle. Yeah. And so the next thing we know, it's another new initiative or another new mandate that's added on top of all the other things. And so those teachers that I've talked to who've begun to feel burnt out are just feeling that there's no end in sight to the mandates and the policies that very often don't make any sense, and to them at least. One individual told me, for example, she was teaching second grade, and she said, I feel that I'm being asked to do things that are not in the best interest of my students. And some days I feel I'm being asked to do things that aren't even ethical.
Really?
Now, when somebody feels that out of integrity with their job, that's a problem.
It's a problem.
And so what came of that particular situation, first of all, just having me to talk to as a former teacher who understands what she's talking about made a huge difference. And that's where I fill a niche that a regular life coach or a career coach that doesn't necessarily fill for teachers. They don't have that particular experience, and so they can't empathize the same way I can. What she told me at the end of our first conversation was that I had been a blessing to her.
That's great.
Because she felt like finally she was talking to somebody who understood. And it wasn't a threatening situation where she was complaining at school where somebody would then say, well, you're just lucky to have a job. You ought to stop complaining, stop whining and complaining. And so in her case, she ended up taking a year off so that she could regroup and decide whether or not what she needed to do was teach, or if it was something else maybe out there that she could do. And that happy ending for her, she found something that fits her perfectly, and she is feeling very happy and satisfied. She is still teaching, but it's a different situation from where she was, and so my impression is that she's very, very happy.
That's good.
I've worked with a few of the teachers in transition, and one in particular found me on LinkedIn. She was not even from around here. She's in another state.
Really? So you work with people outside of Virginia?
Yes, anywhere. I do most of my coaching on
So when they look at these videos,
Skype, so they can contact me. This lady is a National Board Certified teacher, and so the fact that I was National Board Certified drew her to me. And she said, your LinkedIn website indicates that you're working with people in transition. I think I fit that category. Sure enough, she's looking at retiring in the next 5 years or so, but she's going to be young enough that she's still got lots of opportunities ahead of her to contribute in a meaningful way. She thought she had a book, perhaps, that she could write. She needed a little bit of direction about that. She was thinking about whether or not she might want to go for a doctorate. And since I have a doctorate, I was able to ask her questions about what sort of program she might want to pursue, and she hadn't thought about any of those questions. So we got down all of the criteria that she might want to look at for what sort of program she would want to enroll in. And we decided, or I helped her decide, that she actually had 2 books.
Oh my goodness.
One that would be directed toward the parents of special needs children, and one directed toward the teachers of special needs children.
That makes sense.
Because their perspectives are totally different. As a teacher and as a parent of a special needs child herself, she had the perspective of both.
Yes.
But not everybody would.
Yes.
And so, and I also offered that as part of her dissertation, if she decided to go into a doctoral program, one of the books could be the topic of her dissertation. And something else she hadn't thought about.
That's awesome.
So what I do is try to help people look at the various opportunities that they have ahead of them. Very often when they're feeling distressed in particular, they don't see the opportunities, they see the problems.
Of course, that's natural.
And they react to the challenges, and very often they feel like they don't have any choices left. They don't have any options available to them. And by listening to their situation and asking them questions and sort of probing about things that they've said that they're not even aware sometimes that they've said, I can help them to get clearer on what their options really are and what opportunities might be out there for them.
Well, tell me, how long were you in the system?
I was an elementary school librarian and teacher for 33 years.
Oh, girl, you ain't much older than that.
For 25 years, I was with Roanoke County Schools.
Southwest Virginia.
In 2001, I moved here to the Richmond area, and I was with Henrico for 8 years. And then I ran for and became the president of the Virginia Education Association. And I did that job for 4 years. It was an elected position. I termed out in 2012, and so I felt a little burnt out myself.
I'm sure.
At the end of that 4 years,
yes.
And I decided that rather than to go back into a traditional classroom situation, that I wanted to do something different. So I've actually reinvented and retooled myself.
That's what I know.
Which is why I think I can now help other people to do that for themselves.
Yeah, I like the various examples that you shared about the people that you're working with. And also I think it's important that people know that you do it outside of Virginia. You said you use Skype.
I have used Skype.
What have you. If people want to get in touch with you about what we're talking about here and how you help with that transition, what information do they need?
Well, there are a variety of ways they can contact me. One is a phone number, which is 804-404-5475. I have a website with a contact form at www.teachersintransition.com.
Okay, all spelled out.
All spelled out. And they can find me on LinkedIn as well under Kitty Boitnott.
There's an S on teachers. Because sometimes people
teachersintransition.com, correct. They can also find me on Twitter, Kitty Boitnott, and on Facebook at Boitnott Coaching.
Spell that last name.
B-O-I-T-N as in Nancy, O-T-T.
Yeah.
Coaching.
You pronounce it, you said B-O-Y.
Yes, Boitnott.
But it's spelled,
Boitnott.
Spell it again?
B-O-I-T-N as in Nancy, O-T-T.
So if they look for that on there, they won't get a whole lot of people with that name.
There are only 2 Kitty Boitnotts. I've done some Googling.
I'm telling you.
There are 2 Kitty Boitnotts, one that's still in the Roanoke area and me. And so they can find me.
Awesome. What, do you have anything that you would like to leave with this audience? Anything specific in terms of those who are teachers or that might know someone that fits the descriptions that you've given?
Sure. Well, there are a lot of teachers out there, a lot of them experiencing, especially this time of year, various levels of stress and distress. Testing time is coming up. And I know a lot of the counselors and testing coordinators in particular are just under a whole lot of pressure. Even though the elementary teachers and students are beginning to gear up, they're starting all of their test prep so that they can test later. So they're experiencing a higher level of stress during this time of year than other times of the year. Just about everybody I know is either a teacher or has a teacher in their family. There are very few families that don't have at least one teacher. And I was just at a doctor's office a few weeks ago, and he said, all of my family are either medical people or teachers. So he was thanking me for what I had done for teachers while I was president of the VEA. What I would say is if you've got a family member, a friend, a colleague who seems to be suffering from an inordinate amount of stress that rises to the level of distress, that is, their tempers are shortened, they're more irritable, they're feeling overwhelmed, overburdened, and they're expressing that sense of overwhelm. And they're beginning to express reservations about whether this is something they can continue to do for much longer. then I'm the one that they can call and talk to. And I will either talk them down off that cliff of distress and help them to come to terms with decisions that they can feel happier and more satisfied with, or we'll start looking for other opportunities and options for them.
Now, do you, we often recommend, like when people get counselors and whatever, that they kind of interview them. Do you offer anything like that?
I offer a 30-minute free consultation because exactly right. When you're looking for a coach in particular, you want to find somebody that you can communicate with, that you have something in common with, that you can feel like that they're all on the same page, and that it's a good fit. And you can only really know that after you can know it after about 30 minutes, but you need that initial consultation. And I know that I'm not the best fit for everybody, and I need to make offer the caveat, I am not a counselor, that is not my background. So someone who's in true emotional or mental distress, who might need medical attention, needs to find an appropriate counselor or medical person to tend to those problems. I'm more of a career counselor, a career coach and counselor, and a life strategies coach. I'm also a stress management coach, though.
Okay. So you can deal with the stress.
I can deal with the stress.
You can bring the stress down enough for them to get to a regular counselor.
And I also do workshops on stress management.
You do? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
if there's a group that's looking for a program on what is stress, what are the negative effects on the body that very often have medical consequences, then what are some things that can be done to be more resilient in the face of stress? There's 7 surefire, simple, although not necessarily easy things that people can do to help build their resilience in the face of stress. So I do this workshop. I'll do it for free for any club or organization who contacts me. They need a lunch program or a dinner evening program. I have my own equipment. I'll bring my PowerPoint. We'll talk about how to be more resilient in the face of stress.
So tell them how to get in touch with you again.
Same contact information, 804-404-5475 to call me. Admin at teachersintransition.com is the email address. The website is www.teachersintransition.com. And of course, you can still find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook.
Okay, and spelling that last name?
Boitnott.
And that's going to be only 2 people with that name in Richmond?
Only 2 people, and I'm the Kitty J.
J.
She's got a different middle initial.
Okay. That is very good, very good. Anything else you want to share before we
Just that the reason I decided to go into this is that I wanted to continue to help people. I felt like as the president of the VEA, I was a teacher advocate. I was also a student advocate. And one of the reasons I want to do this particular work is that once someone is so burnt out that they're not enjoying teaching anymore, they're not as effective teaching students, and that impacts students. You know, we all bring our own energy, our own level of commitment to a job, and if you feel burnt out and disengaged, that's not doing your students any good. And so I want to be the person who can help work through some of those issues as they come up.
Do you know of anybody else doing this in the Richmond area?
Not in the Richmond area, no ma'am. Not with a niche of teachers in particular. In fact, in doing some research around coaches for teachers, other than instructional coaches, which there are some that are in various school divisions, as far as having life coaches that have teachers as their particular niche, there are only probably a half a dozen of us in the country that I could find.
Did you all hear that? And we have one in Richmond, VA. This is what I think is critical. That we have one in VC. That's what got me interested when we met at the networking group.
No, it's a special niche.
Yes,
a special niche.
And most people don't have a specific niche, although we're encouraged to have that niche. But this niche is critical because he's working with our children.
I think so.
He's working with our kids'
It's the reason
future.
I wanted to do it. And like I said, when I started, a year ago, what I told my career counselor coach was that I wanted to do something that would be helpful to the people that I knew the best, and that was teachers. I know their hearts. I know what's driving them to be teachers. I also know what's breaking their hearts when it comes to feeling that they can't do it anymore.
That's awesome. Kitty, thank you for coming.
Thank you,
I appreciate it. I appreciated the information.
I appreciate you inviting me to be here.
You know, our time is just going down some here, so we're going to take another break, and we're going to bring everybody back
For questions.
for questions. If people want to call in, the live call-in number is 915-5202. 915-5202. So if you have comments or questions for Dr. Burke or Kitty. And I'm calling her Kitty because that boy named Dr. Boitnott. Yes, so we'll be back in just a second.
Thank you.
Second chances, reflecting on the things I've done. Second chances, knowing that the best is yet to come. Cast a stone out on the endless sea of possibilities. Watch the ripple flowing, trusting, never knowing where it leads. Second chances, there's something waiting round the bend. Second chances, ready now to take the leap again. Cast a stone out on the endless sea of possibilities. Watch the ripple flowing, trusting, never knowing where it leads. All my tears, all my fears subside.
Welcome back. I thank you all again for coming, and if you all have thought of anything else you wanted to say about your projects, and because I do want you all to remind everybody before we leave, your special project coming up and workshops that you're willing to offer for free. Dr. Burke, now you up here with us ladies here. You got that help? That's when y'all found out why I didn't want to call his name, because somebody had already asked me, are we in the kin? But you might be kin to my husband's people. I don't know. Yeah,
I just want to say that we really want people to be very conscientious about taking care of themselves. Whole self.
Whole self.
You know, and to
What does that mean, Doc, when you say whole self?
Your whole self, our acronym that we use at the convention for our health ministry is spiritual, physical, intellectual, cognitive, emotional, and social.
Social,
you
everything.
must be concerned with all of those areas in order to be wholly healthy. And so we encourage you to make those connections, make those appointments.
Yes, and
keep them.
And if they don't have, I doubt if you got 900 churches now, I doubt if there's any church that doesn't know about it. But if there's anybody looking that does not have this information at their church, let you know,
yes.
Right?
There are many who don't.
Really?
Because what happens is the people we train to work with the health ministry, they move to something else, or they go to a different church.
Okay.
So there's always that transition. That's why we have to do it constantly.
Okay. So this is a good thing.
So when we do our sessions, like our upcoming annual session, that's another opportunity to recruit new
people,
leaders in the health ministry.
Okay. So you all hear what the doctor is saying here, that if you don't have someone in your church now doing what they used to do, then he needs to know about it, and you can come to his convention, or to the convention. It's not his, but he's a big part of it.
Right.
Tell them again what,
Right.
what the...
Now, our annual session for the Baptist General Convention of Virginia will be held at the downtown Richmond Marriott, beginning June 29th and ending on July 3rd. And beginning on June 30th, there will be classes on all areas that are a part of being a church, and many of those relate to health. We will also have a health service provider section with health providers from 25 different organizations. We'll provide health screenings during the day, and we certainly welcome you to all of the public worship services also.
So anything that's public is free.
Yes.
So they can come, they can find that out. If they get to the
Yes.
Marriott, you can,
Right.
somebody will let them know
Right. So
those services that's available.
That's right.
Very
Downtown
good.
Richmond Marriott. Our office number is 804-228-2421.
Okay, and a very nice young lady answers the telephone whenever you call there too. She's very good at what she does. Yes,
you.
indeed. Thank you, Doc. Now,
Yes.
you want to tell them again?
Well,
how to-
the connection between what I do and what Dr. Burke does is very clear. I talk to people who are feeling stressed
Yeah.
and feeling distressed.
Yeah.
That does have a negative effect
Yes,
on all of
yes,
those aspects
yes.
of a person's
Yeah.
life, including their health. So
Yes.
Right.
that's a great connection.
We have some mental health professionals as part of our
Yes,
provider
yes,
section too.
That's great. That's great. So I'm offering a workshop on stress. I call it Managing Stress, Creating Balance Between Home and Work. And I'm offering it for free. It's about 40 minutes if we don't do health assessment, if it's just a straight presentation. A little bit longer than that if there's time for interaction, and an assessment that I offer the participants that they can take to assess their own level of stress. And they can, if they're interested in a club presentation or organization presentation, they can contact me at 804-404-5475 or contact me through my website at www.teachersintransition.com.
Very good, very good. Well, this time has gone by. A lot of people say, well, you know, how are we going to talk about it for an hour? Yes, we had a lot to say tonight. A lot of good information. I hope that people will share the information that they heard. If they can't use it, you might, I'm sure everybody knows somebody that can use some of this information from
I
both
hope
of you
so.
all.
I hope
I'm positive. So I hope you won't be afraid to share this. And most of us will, when I say most of us, I will make sure that my video is up on Facebook, so people that aren't here, that can't see us on TV, will be able to see it and share it, and hopefully you all will put it on your page also,
Yes.
where you all can share it, because this is information we want to circulate. This is why we call this something different.
Yes.
It probably doesn't match for some people, but I'm glad that you could do the simulation, because we're here helping people.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
You know, we're helping people. And one of my biggest things too, and I always kind of throw this in, I would like for the young people to see that people are doing good work and they're not out there killing folks
That's
and
right.
stealing and stuff.
That's right.
We matter. We matter. Each individual matters, and there's something you were born to do. And that matters too.
Yes,
Because
it
if you don't
does.
do what you sent to do, it won't get done.
Right.
I just believe that. Because can't nobody do what he does, but the way he does it. Same thing with you, Kitty. And it's, there might be somebody in the, we said just 5 or 6 of y'all in the whole United States, but nobody does it just like you. So
Exactly.
that's why you're in Richmond, Virginia, because some of us in Richmond need you to do what you do. It matters, you all. It matters. Well, we appreciate you tuning in tonight. I know we don't have very much longer. We had 3 minutes a little while ago, but and I want to thank the young men for running the cameras and all. And I haven't mentioned somebody's name, and her name is Mita Moody. That's helping me too, because she's a lifesaver. She's a lifesaver, and I appreciate Ms. Moody working with us. And somebody that we don't see in here, her name is Christina. She's the one that brought that flyer to me about Dr. Burke, so I want to give her recognition. This has been a couple of years now that I've had that flyer. So Dr. Burke, thank you for still being around.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Kitty.
Thank you, Shirley.
Good night, you all. We look for you all next week. We're going to talk about hoarders. We have people on here with hoarding. Not me. But tune in next week. Have a great week.